Hey everybody, we made it to June, halfway through the year, and I want to start out with this video. A situation happened earlier this week with a client. They retired in 2016 and he turned 65 this year and started Medicare and got a letter recently saying his Medicare premiums are more than the baseline. I think the baseline is somewhere around $130 a month, and his premium is going to be more because of something called IRMA. Now IRMA looks at your previous year's income, and in this case it actually looks at your 2015 income, so his income 2 years ago, to determine what your Medicare premium should be. And if you earn above $85,000, you have to pay an additional amount, and then it's tiered. So even if you go, I think if you earn more than 150, it goes up even higher. But in his case, he called panicking saying, I don't earn $85,000 anymore, and they're going to punish me for what I earned in 2015. There's an appeals process to that. So there's a form that you can fill out with Medicare. It's called a life-changing event form. You fill that out, and basically on this form he says, I retired in 2016, provides documentation showing his retirement, as well as his 2016 tax return showing lower income amounts, and that should be all he needs to support a reduction of his premium back down to the baseline. So keep that in mind. As you fill out and you start Medicare, that they do look at your 2 years prior tax return to determine what amount you owe. And I guess the next point here is if you had a $500 unexpected expense right now, could you pay for it without having to go into debt? Surprisingly enough, 57% of Americans could not do it. They would have to go into debt to pay for it. That's a sad figure. It's known that 100%, not to be humorous, but 100% of Americans will have an unexpected expense this year. More than one usually. And that's why an emergency fund is so critical. You shouldn't go into debt for $500 unexpected. There are life events that, yeah, you may have to go into debt for, but not these. These unexpected expenses truly are not unexpected. Your car is going to break down. Your house is going to need repairs. Things like this are not surprises. You should have savings to pay for them. And if you're a client of ours, you know this because we talk about emergency funds all the time. You need 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank ready to go, unaccounted for these types of things. That way you're not sweating it when it happens. And the other thing too is when you're cutting your cash flow that tight, the psychological stress that you put yourself through in order to manage your finances that way is unnecessary. One of the keys to happiness is not financial independence, but is also having some free cash flow every single month. You're not sweating it. You're not waiting for the next paycheck. If you're sweating it and waiting for the next paycheck, we got to sit down and talk, and we got to build out a better plan because life's too short to be spending it like that. I talked last week about happiness and money. Whatever you're buying, it's not buying you happiness. We can build a better cash flow model for you so that you have some savings to meet these expenses. And more importantly, 100% of Americans at some point will not be able to work or will want to retire. And if you've got no savings for that, it's a big, big deal. Social Security is very difficult to live on. Millennials are doing a better job. So give yourself a hand if you're one of the, I think, I don't remember the figure, but a larger percent of millennials are saving, more so than any current generation. And so that's probably born out of the last 2 financial crises we went through in 2000 with the tech bubble, and then in 2008, 2009 with the Great Recession. So millennials are doing a good job. Not perfect. There's still a lot of millennials out there that need to do better. In economic news, the unemployment rate has hit almost an all-time low. It's at lowest point since 2001 at 4.3%, which implies more Americans are working. It doesn't look at who's underemployed, who gave up, any of that stuff. I mean, you can look at a million different reasons or different numbers and determine where the economy is. Here's what it does mean. It means interest rates, the Fed will continue to pursue interest rate increases as long as unemployment stays where it's at. There's some other key factors, but unemployment's a big one for them, so look out for that. And the other thing to keep in mind with the unemployment figure, I think, is it's so important that we don't fall in love with it in terms of where we think the market is going to be. The stock market is a forward-looking indicator of where the economy is going to be. Which means that if the economy is doing good, that doesn't mean the market's going to do good. Sometimes it's not the exact opposite, but the market is an indicator of where the economy is headed. So if the market has done really well since November of 2016, that would imply the economy should do well to follow. So keep that in mind. Hope you all have a great it's the first weekend of summer, I know that. So I hope you, for our family, as school ended this week. So I hope you have a great first weekend of your summer. I look forward to seeing you next week.